Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, I'll be talking about my top 10 idol plays in Survivor U.S. history. And for the purposes of this video, I'll only be talking about the times where an idol was successfully used to nullify enough votes to change the result of that tribal council. So unsuccessful idol plays like the hold up bro moment from Caramoan will not be on this list. And also, times when idols were used to make other types of strategic moves won't be on the list either. So moves like the Yule convincing Penner to flip, or Tony saying that his idol was valid until Final Four, those things won't be on the list either. So at this point, we're around the start of Survivor 39, and there are 29 tribals where idols were played successfully. And to narrow it down to the top 10, I decided to make this list purely based on the entertainment value of those idol plays and not the strategic value. But a lot of times those two things correlate anyway. And narrowing it down was pretty tough, so there are some pretty major ones that didn't make the cut for me. I didn't put Advantage Geddon or the No Votes Tribal on here, as while idols were involved, the boots themselves weren't directly voted out due to an idol. Party's double idol play, the Three Amigos Tribal, and Ben idling out Lauren were ones that I thought would make the cut, but I felt like with all of them, immediately after the idol is played, it's very predictable who the boot is. So I didn't select them either, but with that out of the way, let's get started here with number 10. At number 10, I have an idol play from Survivor, Heroes versus Villains, and while it's not one as iconic as one that will be on the list a bit later, or the JT one that I mentioned earlier, I do think the Tom idol play where he idols Cirie out of the game is a pretty fun one. Now what makes this one pretty great for me is that this is the first time someone in JT takes advantage of a vote split and takes out someone in the majority. The vote was supposed to be 3 votes on Tom, 3 votes on Colby, and 2 votes from the minority, and they don't really care who the votes go to. However, JT's able to vote with Tom and Colby, voting for Cirie, making it a 3-3 tie between Tom and Cirie. But when Tom plays his idol, obviously Cirie ends up going home in a 3-2-0 vote, which is a pretty massive blindside on one of the best players of all time. And she gets taken out pretty early here despite having a pretty decent spot in the tribe at this point. Surprisingly so, considering she just came off of playing 2 very impressive strategic games. Now the reason this one isn't a bit higher for me is because outside of the vote results, it's not that interesting. There are no big reactions to this vote out. There's no real memorable moment, and even the result itself isn't as insane as some other idol plays we'll be talking about later. So it's here at number 10. Now at number 9, I have one of my favorite pre-merge tribals of all time, really, and that is from Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. I have the Alan Ball boot, where Joe Mena plays his idol on himself, nullifying 2 out of 4 votes, sending Alan Ball home. And Alan Ball is one of my favorite pre-merge characters, probably of all time, and for him to be taken out this early is a really fun thing to watch. We're coming into tribal. Alan and Ashley are pretty much a duo at that point. Joe and Desi are a duo as well, and Devin is in the middle. But he's pretty blatantly siding with Alan and Ashley. So once we get to tribal, we do have that this is not an advantage thing from Devin, where his vote is taken away, which is a great moment, which, I mean, doesn't add to the idol play itself, but it does add to the unpredictability of this tribal, as the vote then becomes a 2-2 tie. So the votes are cast, Joe gets up and plays his idol, and, well, technically, just by playing his idol, him and Desi already win this round, which is something I don't think they themselves even thought about, but in the case of a tie, both would be safe if they went to rocks, as Joe plays the idol on himself, and if they voted for Desi, Desi would be safe because she's one of the people that got the votes. But that's besides the point, as, again, they definitely didn't realize it at the time. But Joe supposedly looks at Ashley and decides to play the idol on himself based on her reaction. And he's correct. And every single time Joe's name comes up, he has this pretty funny celebration. And I think what's also great about this one is that you can clearly tell Ashley was thinking she was the boot. And then once the Allen vote comes out, it's a pretty big shock. I remember being pretty disappointed at the time. I mean, he is one of the most physical people of this cast. He's one of the best characters of this cast. For him to be booted out 4th is pretty shocking. So this is a personal favorite of mine. I do have it here at number 9. It's not one of the biggest spectacles in idol plays ever or anything, but it is a pretty fun one in my opinion. Now at number 8, I actually have the earliest idol play that ended up making the list, and that is when Russell idols out Kelly in Survivor Samoa, which is the first time in survival history that an idol caused a massive power shift in the game. But unlike something like the JT boot in Heroes vs. Villains, I do feel like there was more suspense here, where with the JT boot, you knew right after the idols were played that, okay, JT's going home, especially because they showed you the Jerry votes. But here at the Kelly boot, when Russell plays his idol, you're unsure of who Galoo even voted for initially, so you don't even know that he nullified any votes, really. But then, even after that suspense, there's also suspense on who's going home from Galoo, as again, you don't know who Russell and them voted for yet. And I do think it's pretty great when the first Kelly vote is revealed, and you have some really great reactions from Kelly herself and Dave Ball. So overall, this is a pretty impactful idol play, and it's a major turning point in this season, so it lands here at number 8. Now at number 7, I have one of my favorite tribals of all time that I forgot to talk about in my top 10 tribal council video, but I'll talk about it here. That is the West Nail boot from Survivor San Juan del Sur, where he gets taken out from 2 idol plays, one from John Mish and one from his own father. So this was another tribal where there was a split vote in play, and Reed was able to convince the majority to do so and split it on Keith and Wes. But Reed and Alec were actually going to vote with Keith and Wes to put 4 votes on John, which would have caused him to go home in a 4-3-2 vote. However, Keith has that stick to the plan moment, which causes Natalie to tell John to play his idol. And there we go, that's where we get the idol play. John plays the idol, nullifying 4 votes on himself successfully. And at this point, Keith is obviously forced to play his idol as well, leaving us with a 2-0-0 vote where Wes is taken out. And this is a really fun idol play. I mean, Reed's plan here is probably one of the best, failed blindsides in Survivor history, as it came so close to working, but then Keith just messes it all up. And if it did work, Reed would have been in a very strong position where he would have been the leader of a 4-person alliance coming into 8, and a 4-person alliance that I think would have gone the rocks, considering how weak of players that those people were. But the reason it's not as high on the list is because once this idol is played again, there's no real suspense. You know Wes is going home, as he was the only option to be voted out that wasn't immune. But obviously the spectacle of having 2 idols played at the same time, and also the plans just changing at the last second, it is a pretty fun one. So it is here at number 7. Now at number 6, I have one of the most popular idol plays, and that is from Survivor Cambodia, where we have Kelly Wentworth nullifying 9 votes and idling out Andrew Savage. And this idol play is really memorable for me, but not for the same reasons that it is for most people, I feel like. Yes, hearing Wentworth will not count 9 times is pretty fun, and the subsequent reactions from Wentworth and really just everyone at that tribal after the Savage votes come out is pretty fantastic. But what makes this idol play even better for me is the context of the spoiler community at the time. Now, Cambodia was a very spoiled season where the entire boot list was known up to this point, and it was completely accurate up to this point. However, on the list for this episode, the boot was supposed to be Stephen Fishback, and it turns out the boot list had Fishback and Savage mixed up, and it really felt like production really played up to that. I know production does know what spoilers are out there, so I wouldn't be that surprised if they edited to make it look like Steven was going to be the boot this episode, because I really felt like they were setting it up. I mean, there was a lot of stuff about talking about how Steven was sketchy in the episode, and they kept on showing Steven's reactions at Tribal. So I really thought instead of Savage, we were going to see Steven's name come up, but it didn't happen. So because of that, it's a pretty fun one for me, so it's here at number 6. Now at number 5, I have another idol play from Survivor Cambodia, and that is the Sierra boot, where Jeremy plays his idol for Stephen Fishback. And I might as well say this right now, considering this surprisingly applies to all 5 of my last idol plays here. And that is that I love idol plays where someone plays an idol for someone other than themselves. And obviously that implies here where we have a round where most of the tribe decided to take out Fishback. It was going to be split between him and Kimmy, but taking out Fishback didn't benefit Jeremy's game at all, as Fishback was one of his closest allies, and Jeremy himself had 2 idols at this point. So Jeremy was part of this split, however he flips his vote over to Sierra, joining Fishback and Kimmy, and plays his idol for Fishback, nullifying 5 votes, and then it becomes a 3-2-0 vote, where Kimmy does come 1 vote away from getting voted out, so that does keep a lot of suspense through this vote reveal as well. And our positive to this idol play is that Fishback had no clue that this was coming. You could tell that he knew that he was going to go home. You could tell that partway through Tribal, he kind of realized that. But when Jeremy comes out of nowhere and plays his idol for Steven, you could see how mind-blown he was that he just got saved. And there's a lot going on in this Tribal, and it's one that I've always really loved for some reason. So I do have it here at number 5. Now at number 4, I have another one of the most popular idol plays in Survivor history. And initially I was a bit unsure where to place it. Ended up landing here at number 4, and that is from Heroes vs. Villains, the Tyson Blindside, where Russell plays his idol for Parvati. And because Tyson switched his vote from Russell to Parvati, messing up the split vote plan, 4 votes from Parvati were nullified, leaving 2 votes for Russell and 3 votes for Tyson, meaning Tyson goes home. And obviously this is looked at as one of the biggest blindsides in Survivor history, and I mean, it is. I mean, Tyson accidentally voted himself out. I mean, I do understand his logic though, especially now. I mean, it was a misguided attempt to gain favor with Russell and ensure that Parvati was the boot, but it's still an unnecessary risk that he took that didn't pay off. Now, what was fun about this idol play is that literally no one knew what was going to happen except for Tyson himself. I mean, Russell, Parvati, and Danielle didn't know for sure that Tyson was going to do what he was going to do, and Russell was pretty willing to sacrifice his game at that point in the case that Tyson voted the way he was supposed to. But the idol play ended up working out for him, and we do get some pretty great reactions after the vote reveal from like Boston Rob and Danielle. But the reason this one's not a bit higher is I do think it suffers from the, like, after the idol is played, you know that Tyson's gonna go home thing. I mean, based on the editing of the episode, again, you can kind of tell. But it is a really iconic idol play and a really fun one as well. So it's here at number 4. Now at number 3, I have what is probably the first idol play that came to mind when I was brainstorming for this video, and that is the Baylor blindside from Survivor San Juan del Sur. And if this was ranked solely on a strategic perspective, this would be number 1, as I think this is one of the best individual moves ever made in Survivor. I mean, Natalie pretty much solidifies her win from this one move here at the final 5. Where with Keith having immunity and Jacqueline being on the outs, that would mean that Natalie would go to the final 4 with Missy and Baylor, where if Keith wins final immunity, Natalie gets voted out. So Natalie realizes that she needs to get rid of one of them to secure her spot at the end. So that alone, getting rid of one of Missy or Baylor, is already a good move. But she executes it so perfectly here, where she could have just gone to Keith and gotten Keith to vote with her and Jacqueline to become a 3-2 vote against Missy or Baylor. But that wouldn't be as much of a spectacle for the jury. So what she decides to do is allow for the others to vote for Jacqueline, but she's able to play her idol on the last day that she's able to play it for Jacqueline, nullifying 3 votes. But the way that she presents the idol is masterful as well, where she looks back at the tribe, asks Jacqueline, "Did you vote for who I told you to vote for?" Which makes it clear to the jury that this was her move. And then by getting rid of one of Missy or Baylor, she gains favor with the jury as they hated Missy and Baylor. And also, by getting rid of Baylor, she gets rid of someone who wasn't a rational thinker, unlike Missy, who is more strategically minded and more likely to work with Natalie again at the final 4. And also, by saving Jacqueline, she gains her loyalty to the point where she would more than likely never turn against her. So for me, this is a masterful idol play strategically, and also has a lot of entertainment value as we get some great reactions from the jury, especially from John. And Missy and Baylor being shocked is pretty fun as well, with Missy thinking that she's going home, only for her to obviously be wrong. And to be honest, I wanted to put this higher, but the top 2 are pretty insane. So I mean, it's here at number 3. So let's move on to number 2, where I have an idol play that I have already talked about in my top 10 tribal council video, but I gotta talk about it again here, and that is the Malcolm boot from Survivor Game Changers, where Ty places idol successfully on Sierra Dawn Thomas, nullifying 6 votes, making Malcolm go home in a vote of 5-0. Now, this, as I mentioned, this is one of the best tribal councils of all time. I mean, everything before the idol play is fantastic, with JT getting up to tell Brad the plan, everyone huddling up to discuss their plans. What does factor here is all the craziness that comes from the idol play itself, where we have Brad Culpepper directing Ty what to do when he gets up to play his idol. He plays it on Sierra Dawn Thomas, and when like all the Sierra votes start to come up, you can just see the dread on all the Nuku members as they don't know who's getting the votes. And when the first Malcolm vote comes up, you see the complete shock on the entire Nuku tribe from Aubrey to Varner to Malcolm himself, who's clearly devastated. I love how they edited the reveal as well, where unlike most other votes where they just show the shot of Jeff turning the vote around, for the Malcolm vote reveal, they actually show him pulling out the vote from the urn and then opening it up and then revealing. It's really great how they extend the suspense here, and they also slow down the music as well to make the reveal even more devastating. So obviously this is a fantastic idol play, but is one that I do think the idol play itself gets overlooked with the tribal and also the result. So it's here at number 2. We're at number 1. And for me, it's not even close. I mean, I think this is far and away the best idol play of all time. And it comes from David versus Goliath, and it is the John Hennigan blindside that involved 2 idol plays, both being played on other people, with Dan unsuccessfully playing his idol for Angelina and Davey successfully playing his idol on Christian. Now, I've already talked about this one as well on my top tribal council video, but we'll talk about it again. So coming into this tribal, we had 7 Goliaths and 5 Davids, and after Nick learned that Christian was the target, Davey plays his idol on Christian. So immediately after that, we get Angelina begging Dan to play his idol for her, and he does. And one of the things I love about this tribal is how the Davids are acting like they're completely screwed at this moment. And we get the votes. There's 7 Christian votes that get nullified, then 2 Angelina votes, and then we have, again, the Davids acting dumb, like what are we going to do now and stuff. But, well, I mean, the exception is Gabby, because Gabby actually didn't know the plan, which I think is even funnier in retrospect when you rewatch this tribal. Just looking on Gabby's face, as you could tell that she's super serious the entire time because she doesn't know that's going to end up going her way. But I remember watching this tribal live and thinking the Davids were idiots when the Angelina vote came out, because obviously you shouldn't vote for Angelina. Obviously the Goliaths wanted to play an idol on someone, it would have been Angelina, as she was the most obvious boot. But then obviously we get the John votes coming out, and the reactions are amazing. I mean, there's so many reactions throughout the entire tribe, from elation to despair. And again, this is the first use of a minority vote split we've seen, which is something I had actually thought about in the past, but we've never actually seen on the show itself. And what made this idol play even better is that I wasn't expecting it to happen at all. I was thinking at that point that we were going to a 0-0 tie, and I mean, someone like Davey or Nick were going home on the revote. And I think because of that, obviously, I think this makes this one of my favorite tribals of all time. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite tribals of all time pretty much solely because of the idol play. And it's only 4 minutes of television, but there's so many great moments within that 4 minutes. So I have it here at number 1. So there we go. Those are my top 10 idol plays from Survivor U.S. And yeah, as implied by me mentioning U.S., I will probably be doing a similar video for International Survivor as well sometime in the future. I'm not sure if it'll be a top 10, as I don't know if there's really even 10 that we're talking about, but we'll see. So yeah, that's the video. That's everything I gotta say. Thank you for watching.